Mad Ones. I'm your, just completely ready for the Aliens host, Cam Harless. And joining me today as my guest co-host is the Spirit of America, rolled up into a mustachioed package, Mr. Whip Spoon. How you doing, buddy?
I live in California. Hey,
oh,
buddy.
So you have the aliens.
This is what we get. Magazine limits or something. I don't know.
Tonight will be a fun one. This guest came on previously to talk about the cult that he's working to destroy, and he's spread out a little bit. So we're going to talk about one of the new ones, which is very cool. But also, the world's ending in 2 days, and we're going to learn about that. 2, maybe 3, depending on the words of the prophet. But we're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we do, I do want to let you know that this show is 100% brought to you by fans and patrons. So hit like, subscribe, share the show with your friends. We've covered so many topics at this point. So if you see one and you're like, oh, wow, that sounds interesting, or hey, I have a friend that this might interest, share it with them. Help us out. Send it along. Also, if you want to get an early episode, there will be an early episode in April, first week of April. And if you want the extended episodes, we do every episode extended, and we call that Last Call. You can go to patreon.com/themadOnes for that. And also, if you want to just rep the show, go to wearethemadOnes.com/store. There you can get a shirt, a mug. And then also, if you just like my AI artwork and want to get a print of my poster of the presidents as professional wrestlers or as mulleted presidents, you can do that. I am planning, if all goes well, to have a brand new one for you by Tuesday, a new list of presidents. And it's taking way longer than the other ones. So hopefully you like it as much as I'm working on it. But that's all I've got for you with house cleaning is done. So
those
joining
AI
us tonight
are complicated.
Oh yeah.
To get them right, you can just put in what you want and you'll get a thing. But to get that je ne sais quoi, you gotta spice it.
You gotta know how to manipulate it. You gotta know. There's so much to do. I've been working on the one that I'm working on now for probably 2 weeks now. And I'm not close to done yet. I'm not halfway done yet. So we'll see about that. I'm going to push for Tuesday. Hopefully before President Trump gets arrested, allegedly. We'll see. But joining us tonight,
buddy, it's a psyop. They're just trying to fake a revolution. You got to stay home and you got to vote. You got to just vote harder, man, and stay home.
The world is ending before then. We're good. What does it matter? But joining us tonight is a journalist and a producer of alternative media, particularly on TikTok. He's threatened the life of that evil turtle person in Washington, D.C. He's doing his damnedest to take out a cult in Alaska who viewed children as property and is currently working to uncover the lies of some woman I'm 80% sure played the wife of Edgar the Cockroach in Men in Black. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Syran Warner.
Hello.
How are you doing, man?
Sorry. Messing with the headphone. Yeah, glad to be here.
Glad to have you back. Last time we talked about the body.
Yes.
And I forget the leader's name and how, they stole children from someone and exiled someone else to Australia. And do you have any brief update on that? Has anything changed since we last spoke?
Yeah, a lot has changed, but there's not a ton I can talk about with that. I sort of went off TikTok and social media, other than I was posting some stuff on personal pictures or whatever on Instagram for about 6 months while I was working on a project that's about the body. And there is an investigation that continues, because you're sort of following these people as after sort of the aftermath of the police intervention and everything that happened in Tonasket, Washington last year. It's definitely it's evolved. They've become a hell of a lot more paranoid. There's yet another concern over a woman who hasn't made a public appearance in 2 years or going on 3 years now.
They did take the kids away from that Chris guy though, right?
Yes, yeah.
He hasn't gotten him back, has he?
No, and there's a 12-year restraining order, so preventing him from seeing either of the kids or his ex-wife. So these kids will be like in their late teens or when there's any option for him to come back into the picture. So I think they're pretty safe.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that hasn't been overturned, because you know how that stuff happens. Sometimes there's a bad judge or a bad system that's just like, oh no, this is fine. This is okay.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that like I just didn't really know how to put it on the internet, but I have a lot of copies of it. Is this guy, after this happened, after he got arrested and the kids got taken, he filed like a federal lawsuit against like he named 12 wrongdoers, I think he called them. But he's so far down this hole, and he was representing himself in this lawsuit, and he was he lives in this fantasy where he's like a legal expert or something, and the court files for that lawsuit are just insane. He would like put instead of signing documents, there's all these documents where he puts like a ink, what do you call it? He's given like, he puts a fingerprint and a stamp and like writes his name in brackets with like a colon in the middle of it, because he's under the impression that they're sovereign
citizen type stuff.
Yeah, and these people like put like copyright symbols next to their name. I mean, it's
there was one guy I heard of recently, or one lady on TikTok. I can't remember what the initials were, but she was like, if you sign anything and then right next to it in parentheses or brackets put these initials in Latin, it means under duress, and none of your signatures are actually they be upheld in court. That's not true.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that, I mean, I guess like when a lot of people saw that video, you see Chris calling his kids property. It's really messed up, and but I do think that he wasn't saying that just for the fact that he's a monster, even though he was guilty of child abuse, or not guilty of it, but that was what was in the affidavits. He was calling his kids property because he thought that like, oh, this will solve the problem. Like the police won't be able to do anything because they're not looking, this is my property. They can't take it.
Right.
And, so many times when the police were saying like, you're under arrest, he was like, I don't consent. I do not consent to arrest. I don't
consent, and my body is my property, and you can't do this.
Like on Reddit, there's a sovereign citizen channel. There's a lot of sovereign citizens in Australia for some reason. But yeah, you see these videos it's like a new video comes out every month or something of somebody getting arrested, and a lot of times it ends with the cops just like shattering the window and like physically removing the person. But you'd think like there'd be enough evidence right now that they would be able to communicate with each other and be like, this doesn't work at all.
Right. But do sovereign citizens use TikTok? Because that's what I see it all the time on TikTok, and it never works. You'd think they'd go, well, this obviously isn't working. We've got to find, if we want to be sovereign citizens, we have to find other ways to do this, such as don't do stupid things that get you caught. Like step one, fly under the radar.
Yeah, well, and a lot of these people will do things that are against the law. Well, I guess like people will have their house and they'll read something on the internet and they'll be like, well, I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. Or I'm going to have this building and I'm not going to use a permit. I'm just going to write something on a piece of paper, put my little copyright symbol next to it. And, that's a permit. So there's just all kinds of ways that people get in trouble that are not nefarious. I mean, most of the people who are getting arrested in these videos are like, they're not really committing like serious crimes.
Right. They're just driving without a license plate.
Without a driver's license. Yeah.
It's just like, maybe don't make it so obvious is all I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna play this role, be a double agent, man.
Well, yeah, but it seems to be like the type of person who goes the sovereign citizen route and like falls into the whole maritime court ruling. Like our whole system of justice is based on maritime law. It's all based on some weird capitalization when they redid the Constitution in 60 whatever or 70 whatever. And then like also the thing about just flying under the radar, being a double agent is like, that's not a type of person, dude.
Right. That's
like,
it's not a smart person.
They're not, that goes against everything about being the sovereign citizen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a smart person movement.
The real pickle that some of these guys get in, like with Chris and this court case, which like, people are going to know about it in the future. That didn't have to be a federal case, but you like renounce your citizenship and you just create like some legal problems. So yeah, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Like I went like I can't remember when I talked to you last year, but I ended up going to Tenasket where the cult, like their headquarters are, the compound is. And you would see people with cars that like did not have license plates or had their license plates obscured. I remember there was this one guy with these like pipes on the back of his trucks that said "fuck Inslee" like in enormous letters. That's the governor of Washington.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like if I drove that thing around Minneapolis, I'd be pulled over in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I understand their mindset, but I'm also saying like there are other groups that feel almost the same way who are able to fly under the radar. And I don't know why these people can't just, play, not play the game, not pay into it, but like find a way around it. Like be smarter, but that's not them. That's not them.
Well,
I know.
I think there's a reality too that like when you find people who are sovereign citizens that have gone that far, they believe they're like also QAnon. I mean, they just believe in all kinds of conspiracy theories. Like that was one thing that really changed with the body is that originally I had this picture of everything that happened. My information was from like 2005 or 2015. Sorry. And when I sort of caught up with them and, there were new people to talk to, it just, at a certain point, they just became seriously crazy about conspiracy theories, lots of stuff they read on the internet. And, if the leader believes it, like everybody believes it. So they have all these and that's something that you find in like this cult that I'm researching now, Profundity Yours, is that they have, you'll see if you look on their like Facebook profiles, there'll be like a JFK Jr. post or something. And it's like, oh yeah, this makes more sense now. Like,
so I do want to get to Profundity Yours, which may be the worst name of a cult I've ever heard. But really one of the things that I wanted to mention that I heard you talk about in a TikTok was the leader. Was his name Jeff?
Mark is the leader of the body.
One thing that I don't remember us talking about before was that he actually physically fought the devil.
Yeah,
and that's part of his. That's what I sent you a comment. I was like, send me his new scripture. I want to read it.
It's really funny. I mean, that's the thing is, so there was a story about Satan, and it basically Mark went on this 40-day fast, came back, and was like, I fought the devil, and I took back all this stuff from Satan. So like, basically, he wanted to like fuck somebody's wife and get away with it.
Right.
But then that opened up the door to all kinds of things. Like all these other things are okay. And then it ended up like in a divorce case. There's this legal case where they had to somebody had to make an argument like, is this a safe place for children? And this story about Satan came up, and the scripture Mark wrote that went along with it, which is like 20 pages long for sure, got marked as evidence. So I got to like swoop in and grab the
nice.
The scripture about beating up Satan, and I mean it's
taking back murder.
It's bonkers. Taking back murder, taking back bestiality, and whatever.
such a wild story.
Do we get to read this?
Some of it is, I guess, some of it's in my TikTok videos. I've never posted like a full like piece of evidence or whatever, just because it's sort of my job to like safe. disseminate that stuff, and I don't want like to.
Sure.
I mean,
all I'm saying
yeah.
is
Oh,
that
it's
if you could
active.
send it to
Oh,
me,
yeah,
I won't
okay.
share it with everyone.
Oh yeah. I have no problem just like spreading it to people who are safe. It's fun.
But yeah, so let's talk about Profundity Yours. Should I play the video first, or do you want to give some
I
groundwork
probably
on how
should
you got to
explain a
them?
little bit first.
Okay.
I guess this is a new age. This is a new age group that started largely online by this woman from Montana at the age of like 50, or maybe like late 40s, like really like her second act in life after like living off disability for a while, for like a decade, was this to become this sort of medium in this world of light energy and crystals, and it ended up having to do with like this mythology that she created, that she is this alien walk-in named Christo Sophia, who's been saving the world for months.
Can I just say the name that you just said, which is a mixture of Christ and wisdom,
Yep.
is that's incredible.
There's a lot of stuff that's on the nose about this. I mean, I feel like Profundity Yours is the kind of story that the first time I heard it, I was like, it just doesn't sound real. Like, how could this person be causing all this destruction and extorting people there's some bad things I've heard about Linda. And you can see in the videos with the members that live on the ranch, the people that are really in the danger zone, that just the amount of control that she has, even though like this clip we're going to play will sound silly, but basically there's just a lot that you can learn. This won't make much sense. Like it makes sense to me after watching so many of these videos, but it's a little, she's just combining a lot of things, and she's telling a true story about going to Mexico, I guess. But that's sort of like the genre of cult that we're talking about. I think like their theology is very close to Heaven's Gate. It's the closest.
Yeah, like when
for a lot of reasons.
I specifically didn't watch too many of your videos. Like I saw the first bits and kind of, because I wanted to hear it from you and I wanted to kind of do that. But my immediate thought when I very first heard of it was Heaven's Gate and Marshall Applewhite.
Mm-hmm.
Like does she and we'll get to it later, but there does seem to be a bow to her peep as well.
Yes.
That's very interesting. But how did you run into this? Was it just online, or
I was on a podcast called Indoctrination, which is really like it's a show that is psychologist Rachel Bernstein, who has a lot of she's been like exposing cult stories or working with Cult Awareness Network when that was still a thing, in the 90s, I think, or early 2000s. And she just has so much experience in the field that a lot of people, she has a lot of listeners who are like, people who want to learn about cults, people who have been through the cult experience. And at the end of that episode, where we talked about my work with the body, she said something that was like, and hey, if you have some story that you want, like, feel free to send an email to Syran. And I got a bunch of emails and I sent some stuff around, but there was like one email where basically this person was telling the story of Profundity Yours with all these like attachments, like she had actual evidence. And I was busy working on this project in Washington, but there was like something about the story. And then when I heard it, when we did the first interview, I watched a video of Linda and I was like just captivated. But she's just interesting on a lot of levels. And there were actually there were a lot of people that wanted to come forward. It's really like the survivors of this group that sort of like banded together and sort of handed a football to me, where it was like, with some research and collaborating with people online, we've been able to like uncover so much of the story in a short period of time, I guess. I don't know if I answered that question
You-
went off
you
there.
did. But, yeah, and I told you just recently, I was like, I want to talk to a Mooney
Yeah.
who got out, and I would love to talk to someone who was in Children of God.
Yeah, Children of God. There's a lot of people out there who would talk to
Yeah.
you from Children of God because it was such a big.
And
tragic. Yeah.
So tragic, but that's one of those true crime stories that's like you hate to see it, but you understand why this kid did what he did, horrifying. But yeah, so do you want to let's go ahead and let's watch the first. She said she's the first emanation of creation. Is that correct?
It's the first emanation of creation, and what she's going to be explaining here is this process by which she saves the world. We're going to hear a little bit of light language because they do speak in a language that only they can understand sometimes.
Wait, what's light language?
For it's what you speak in space, baby. Like
I've had my prostate
space
checked.
language
I mean,
in this
like,
one,
yeah. Okay.
So when you said light language before the show, I thought you meant like there's a little bit of cursing in the video.
Yeah, that's honestly like
there's a lot of videos where she's cursing. This one is actually PG. I don't think she curses.
But she's speaking an alien language. Very cool. So I'll go ahead and pull that up.
9/11 this morning, and I've been guided for the last couple of years that the time would come when I would need to go reconnect North America and South America, because before they were split, same story of ancient Israel, before Israel was split into Judea and Northern Israel, it used to be one country. And so 9/11 this morning, Spirit told me it is now time. You need to go to the Pyramid of the Sun and Moon, and you need to connect fully the meridian to bring Canada, United States, and South America back to the one.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I heard 9/11 and I'm like, this is a woman. And well, and also the mention of splitting between Israel and Judea. She knows who she's talking to. Like,
yeah,
it's actually kind of slick.
No,
Stupid,
I mean that's yes. I feel like a lot of people, like Linda, doesn't get the credit. Like a lot of people are like, this person is a moron. Like she kind of knows what she's talking about, but she's just blending like too many things together. And I think we're gonna see some of and outer space, I guess.
In 30 seconds, I've heard like 3 different just kind of trigger words. Crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Country that it is. Now, I'm talking on a binary grid system. Guess where I'm going? Probably here in a few hours.
Do you mean you're going to travel etherically?
No, I'm traveling physically because I've already done everything ethically. And when I say I, again, it's a collective conscious, Sophia and her 12 dragon tribe, or what you got.
Okay, wait. Okay. I paused it.
Sorry,
one sec. Wait, Dragon Tribe?
Her 12 dragon tribe?
See, that's new to me, but there's
So Sophia is her, right?
Yeah, an alien walked into Linda and killed her in the year 2012 and took over her vessel. And that's Christo Sophia. She still goes by Linda, like, because people recognize her vessel, and But.
Well, you gotta, that's flying under the radar. You got to keep that government slave name.
Hey, she's smarter than the sovereign citizens already. Let's go.
Right. Okay.
No, I'm traveling physically because I've already done everything ethically. And when I say I, again, it's a collective conscious, Sophia and her 12 dragon tribe, or what you guys call the 24 grand central suns. I'm going physically. I've already done it ethically and energetically.
About to get really good.
Where are you heading to?
I'm heading to southern Mexico, to the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. Mexico City. What is the name of it? I can't pronounce it in human language. That's where we're going. I'll just say it in star language.
Yeah.
So that's we're physically going to drive, so I can drive along the meridian and remove the meridians and remove the energetic binary codes that are infiltrated and put in the true solar codes.
Yeah.
Now,
okay. Binary codes, as in computers?
Yeah, I mean, there is like a great irony here is that she talks about like binary codes and artificial intelligence all the time, and like there's an irony in that because that's what we're using in our Discord group to do research like in reality. But
I mean, that's what I used. I used AI to make the episode image of her as the first emanation of creation.
Yeah, that was super cool because we're using a program called OpenAI Whisper, and I knew like having seen like your amazing like president, some of that stuff that when you first posted that like the mullet picture of Biden and I found out that was AI, I was like, this is the funniest thing in the world. But yeah, she talks a lot about AI and artificial intelligence, but it's it's not like actually. It's not clear what she's like saying. It's
right. Well, I mean,
like throwing
it's just
those words in there.
The way she's mixing things is what that's where she's losing the plot. Because she's what did she say? Binary codes for solar codes.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You'd have to back it up. I need to hear it again.
I mean,
I'll back it up a little bit.
I promise it's not going to like. Yeah.
Well, I'm not expecting it to pop clear on this review, but
that's we're physically going to drive, so I can drive along the meridian and remove the meridians and remove the energetic binary codes that are infiltrated and put in the true solar codes. Yeah. Now, on the human aspect, the host vehicle and why I walked into Linda is because Linda is a solar logos and a planetary intelligence known as.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having to pause it again. A solar logos and a planetary intelligence?
Doesn't logos mean intelligence?
Logos is it means like the word. Like that's what's used in the first chapter of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That every time they say word, it's logos.
Okay. So
she is making a claim of, like she said she's the first emanation of creation. She's making the claim that she's Jesus in some sense.
And the Christos Sophia,
Christ wisdom, logos.
But there's also like lots of like UFOs and aliens and stuff in this. Like she talks about the Galactic Federation a lot. I don't know if she's made like subtle references to it already here, but I think this is pretty much like the end of the video. I don't know if she.
It is. We'll finish it up and then we can. I just had to stop there. Sorry.
On the human aspect, the host vehicle and why I walked into Linda is because Linda is a solar logos and a planetary intelligence known as Gaia outside. Now, Linda, if you guys understand, again, masculine, the three aspects. Linda in ancient Aramaic means serpent.
Wait. Linda in ancient Aramaic meant servant.
Isn't it weird that they had the word Linda in ancient Aramaic?
Right. I don't know. Because Linda it comes from it's a Latin root and it means beautiful, right? So what it's servant?
Serpent.
I heard serpent.
Serpent,
like snake.
Not even servant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's not right. That's not right. That's not true.
Well, Linda does not mean serpent. I really don't know if I need to look it up.
No, you don't have to. I mean, I know it's not right on its face. I didn't know if there was some weird, because Nachash is kind of the root of serpent. So Linda's nowhere close to that word. So I just wanted to see if there was some kind of weird connection that she made. No, there's none. She's just saying stuff.
Yeah, I guess something I've heard multiple times is that like Linda has a photographic memory. And I believe this after talking to people and seeing how she can like, one thing that she will do is she'll like see a movie and then in her talk the next day, she'll like describe the movie without saying its name. And that's like now part of the theology. But she does this with like astrology and numerology and, a lot of stuff that she reads from other gurus online that she kind of reads once and then it's in her mind and she'll just pull from it. Like another thing about Linda is that she's stoned whenever she makes these, like she smokes a lot of weed. And that definitely, I feel like if it wasn't for that, she might be able to connect these things a little better and not say Linda means serpent or something, but she just gets going and she like can't stop herself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because like, first, why would you choose Aramaic? I know that's the language that Jesus spoke predominantly in the
why.
area he was in, but even so, he would all of the knowledge came out of Hebrew, and so, and by the way, found the Aramaic word for serpent is Hivei, Hivei, which later became Hava and not Linda. So, I mean, why would you not go back to ancient Hebrew for this if you're trying to tie in these new age elements with the Old Test? I don't. So she's
I mean,
okay.
the idea is like you wouldn't be asking these sort of questions if you were somebody watching the videos who gets like sucked into it. Like
right.
part of it is like you have this loaded language, you have all these like these concepts that are being thrown at you, and there's like an appeal that like, okay, I don't understand exactly what she's saying now, but that's because like I need to learn more. I need to watch more videos. I need to like have sessions with Linda, and then I'll understand this stuff. Like that's part of the grift.
Well, and that's what's no one, most people who are listening to, or no one, I would imagine no one who's listening to her and thinking this is a source of knowledge is also working on a master's degree in biblical languages right now. So, I mean, that's just me.
No, I have talked to like one of the former members of this group that I talked to, I believe like went through like got her master's in like divinity school or something like that.
So crazy how that happened, because Koresh had people from Harvard.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know, like there's been some really cool stuff that's come out recently just because cult stories are I guess like trending with like Netflix ran out of serial killers and now we get cult stories. But there's this story that is my favorite cult documentary I've ever seen. It just came out called Stolen Youth, and it's about the Sarah Lawrence this cult at Sarah Lawrence. This guy went to prison, and what I love about that documentary so much is that these are these are kids that are really good in school, and the woman who gets it worst and goes like all the way down the like to just like total absolute control to this guy. And a lot of it's on video. She had a degree from Harvard, and her doctorate was like from Columbia. Her PhD was from Columbia.
And that's one of the things.
And it sort of it takes that notion that like this is just like something that happens to cow-eyed idiots, and it's like no, is there like some smart people find themselves in groups like this?
Well, I just think it's bizarre because, like, you know, like I said, I'm studying these I'm going to be studying it even more later, but I'm studying these languages. And so just the very basics that I know immediately went, no, that's not right. So it's weird that they go past that. Like what's it like you said, Harvard people get into it. Smart people are sucked into these things constantly. And it just, I don't get it. Like, what is it about this that makes people go, oh, no, this works. This makes sense.
I mean, it's these people have something. These cult leaders, like I think, a lot of people will see something like Linda that's just like so far from like mainstream religion that like we mostly grew up with, and it's not like really designed for that person. Like
right.
The way, I mean, you had like in Nexium, you had all these people who were like actresses and people who were like doing work in entertainment and had some success that get sucked into it. And it's like, yeah, this program like specifically appealed to, you know, if you have these dreams, like here's how to like shut down all your fear. You'll never have to fight again, blah, blah, blah. You'll become a better actress or whatever. And that's like something that is really easy to see. Like I can see why an actress would want a class like that. And if there's charisma that's going on too, and there's a lot of like layers to it. And a lot of times, like if you're in the early stages of a cult, it's like a buddy system where you get hooked up with somebody who's already indoctrinated and will fill in all the gaps for you and stuff. Like it really could happen to most people. Like I honestly think like even though I've been like researching this for, you know, the last 2.5 years plus, I could totally be persuaded into doing something that like wasn't in my best interest. It buys like a con artist who is, a lot of these people are intelligent or psychopaths. They'll say anything. There's really like I would never join like a Christian cult because I grew up Catholic and I have like opinions that you just couldn't convince me.
I have opinions.
But it doesn't matter. There could be something that was like suited for like me, and I think something like Profundity Yours too. You got to think the pandemic sent a lot of people scrambling for answers to questions, big heady questions that there was no. I mean, this was all happening in a trailer park, but then the pandemic happened and got a little more popular online, and now they're on this $1.3 million ranch or something.
Wow. See,
like,
I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to try to like shift towards the pandemic or anything, but like your mention of, okay, so Cam is like, well, Koresh had people from Harvard, and then you go on to mention the Nixium, and there's like
Scientology.
a ton of smart
doctors,
smart people, like, and it doesn't, intelligence is not an indicator of mental well-being or stability in one's own personality. And often the higher someone's intelligence is, the more you see like weird neuroses that are easily exploitable. And like a lot of the techniques that I'm speaking completely out of my ass with this sentence, undoubtedly a lot of the techniques this Linda person is using are tried, true, tested techniques that work.
I mean, Linda's definitely like read up on the subject. There's also, she might have influence from somewhere else, but it's interesting because Linda does not have like this traditional education, and a lot of the stuff kind of slips through. It's very bald. Like there's this clip that I put online in 2 of my videos where it's her saying like, you got to tell your mind to shut the fuck up. And it's like. And she'll say like, "Oh, you don't need to be. You need to forget about your individuality. Like you're no longer like Paul, Dick, or Jane or whatever." She says like the quiet part out loud that like even like a David Koresh wouldn't say like in one of their like videos that they made or whatever.
Well, I would say, speaking of like these people with degrees, is even though I'm working on mine, I do recognize that a lot of the people that end up with these advanced degrees are in places where they're, for good or not, depending on what it is, have been in a state of indoctrination of learning and also indoctrination at the same time for decades at the end of it, right? And so it's like when you're primed to trust your teacher, when you have a new one that interests you, it could make sense that you could walk down that road. Also, one of the big things that's happening in, well, I don't even know how big it is. It's probably just on TikTok. But one of the things that keeps showing up on TikTok are Torah observant Christians, which is such a wild concept because you may hear Torah observant and think Messianic Jews. No, these are not Jewish people. This is a Gentile movement to follow the laws of the Old Testament. And what's so amazing about it is how like blatantly wrong they are about everything. But I mean, like clearly wrong. Like there are things that they say that I'm sitting there going, wow, you're not even close to pronouncing that right. And this is not hard concepts. This is Yahweh. Like the word name Yahweh, when they're going around and going Yahuwah, you're like, okay, bro, you don't know what you're doing here. How are you?
No,
even
that's an easy
acting?
one.
Or they'll instead of Yeshua, they'll say Yahusha, and I'm like, how is anyone listening to you? But what those people play on is this idea that they could be closer to God than they are now by doing X, Y, and Z. And so they use that shame of not being as close to God as they should be or want to be, and then apply these rules and these ideas and this bad stuff. But because this person says, I didn't even understand the Gospels until I started following Mosaic law, they're like, okay, that's all it's taking. That's the missing piece that I don't have. and
Mhm.
it's coming. It's crazy. Like, you're helping me understand these people a
I
little bit
would
more.
say
So thank
too
you.
that like the number one factor that leads to people joining cults, like if you took all the cult members and like what do these people have in common? It's idealism.
Yeah.
It's idealistic people. So you'll see people who want to believe, like if even if
Right.
the information like isn't like a science, it's like, well, I accept it because like I want this to whatever. But that's also why you see people who are in like med school who are getting just super well educated, but they're doing like they're on a path because of their idealism. And then maybe like you leave school, you're searching for answers, like it's not really like a matter of intelligence. I mean, the real problem, I think, is that like I think we are coming into an age where we're learning how many cults there are, how prevalent this stuff is. And I wish we would talk about the two biggest tragedies in American history are both cult stories.
Are you talking about Heaven's Gates and Jim Jones, or?
I mean Jonestown and 9/11.
That's right. We did talk about that a little bit last time.
Yeah, like Heaven's Gate is the largest like mass suicide, and it's very. I don't know if I've even heard of like a mass suicide that wasn't like cult related, because people
Right.
just generally don't do that stuff.
Wasn't the
If
the ones in
people
Japan?
had like a short education, like, hey, it's social studies in 7th grade, like these are you could even filter it through the lens of like, these are the signs of a toxic relationship. These are the things that lead to, because it's a really short list of like what a cult is, and people go through their lives, like even like definitely for me, just speaking from my own experience, until this stuff landed on my desk, I had this idea of like Charles Manson and Doe Applewhite, and never considered like, and it was just like these morons all got together and worshiped this dude. Like, what? These crazy people.
Well, it's a real dark skill to be able to find people in their vulnerability, because a lot of times I guarantee you, when people start following this, something has happened right before this that's upset their ideological, religious, whatever apple cart, and they hit a snag in their life that they couldn't explain with their certain set of tools in their tool belt, and they're looking for new tools to do this, and it's always in the vulnerability, I think. Or
it's a lot of people who are like going through breakups too, people who are like 18-year-olds moving to college for the first time, they don't know anybody, and like I guess like just going back to like the pandemic, like you just have people want to belong. It's like in our nature to want to belong to something. If you don't want to belong to something, like there's sort of like that's a problem too. So it's kind of like in our nature to seek things, and sometimes we're like very vulnerable to it.
Yeah.
And I think when you see, I mean, because I really went deep into researching QAnon in 2020 when all my friends on Facebook from back home were, jumping in and saying 4 million kids were getting abducted every year. Just like trying to prove it wrong and researching it. And it's like, this could happen to anybody. It happened because we all had so much time on our hands. Everybody's frustrated, and people just want alternative to the answers they've been given if they don't like the answer, Right.
All right. So this has been a fun conversation about cults in general, but how has Sophia, wait, was it Christos Sophia?
Christos Sophia. I mean, she goes by Linda. Like she refers to herself as Christos Sophia in the videos to like remind people. If you walked up to her, if you were like in the cult, you'd call her Linda.
Okay. So how did she prey on people's vulnerability, and how did it go from a trailer park to $1.4 million? What kind of abuses are we looking at here?
Well, there's a profile of the people. I mean, I've talked to like 6 people now who are connected to this in some way, even if it's through like a relative that went there. Most of the people, or somebody who knew them in the past. Mostly it's people who were either on the ranch or were in the like online version of this group. And they have a lot of the same characteristics, mostly middle-aged women. I would say there's a lot of things like, I guess the men that are there are not certainly type A personalities or masculine personalities in that regard. I don't want to like be insulting to them or whatever. But there's a type, and the real, like, the gold mine is like widows and people who just gone through a divorce, who you know, they're 60 years old, so there's money in there. There's somebody I know in there who has an oil dividend. There's a woman who got like $10 million in a divorce. I mean, this cult is in Texas, but like nobody there is from Texas, as far as I can tell. There's people from all over, you know, from people who are valuable. Like, there's a reason to, there's a method, I think, to the people that Linda brings into the IRL version of the cult, because it's so much bigger, like on the internet.
Right.
But if you're like at the ranch, like you serve a like specific purpose, and there's a lot of people with the same profile, I guess.
Okay. And once she has them lured in, what is her mythology? Because we know about how she's the emanation of creation. We know that I almost said demon, an alien killed her and took over her body. So what's the main gist of this movement? I know the world's ending. We need to get to why and how and when.
Yeah, well, the world is ending. I mean, I guess you can see it like in her videos. Like she has like some wisdom, because like if you were coming to this from like a new age perspective, where you knew like about light energy and you had crystals on your desk or whatever, you find Linda and it's like, man, she knows so much more than the other gurus, because you know, she combines so many different things.
Right.
And I think that's what attracts her, and it's also just attention, like from people I've talked to who got on the ranch, who got there. They basically had some experience. A lot of it happened, you know, over the phone or when they first met, where it's just like, Linda's going to talk to you for like 8 hours until 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, she's just going to blow your mind. You might smoke some weed with her while she's blowing your mind. And that's kind of like the hook. But like her message, it changes on a lot of whims, but in a lot of ways, she's just kind of repeating the same stuff over and over again.
Okay, and so the main message is that she needs to. She's here to realign Earth, to get rid of.
Yeah, she's realigning energies. I mean, there's the magnetic. There's going to be a magnetic pole reversal. That's what's going to end the world. You know, these things have been. She's been going after these things for years, but now, in the last like year or so, she's had a lot more resources, where it's like, I gotta, you know, go to Mexico and like shut down this thing. And it's really just like an excuse to get like people in the car that she can talk to for, you know, 20 hours or something like that.
So
people from sleeping, thinking.
How is the world ending next Monday or Tuesday, besides Donald Trump being arrested? Because I know the world's going to end for some people there, but how else is it going to end?
I mean, I really hope we don't miss. I don't know. I hope Linda's wrong and we get to see that play out. But it's like Linda had some writing about it online, and I think some of it came down when all the YouTube videos came down last week. But just talking about the apocalypse, there's going to be this, you know, the earth is going to flood. There's going to be like this disaster. And this place in Texas where they have their little compound of the ranch, that is going to be like, it's going to be a safe space for, I think, 144,000 of like the refugees. Yeah, you would recognize that too. That's and also like she's a space alien and her dog is a space alien.
Whoa. Yeah, her dog's a space alien.
Mixing, yeah, it's like Snoopy the cosmic dog that bites everybody. That's like
okay. So if anyone doesn't know, 144,000 is an important number that comes from Revelation, and it is 12,000. It's a gross 1,000 gross. 12,000 each from each tribe of Israel. So that is the remnant of Israel that will be saved at the eschaton at the end, right? So her using that number is also a number that Koresh used. I don't know if Jim Jones dipped into the 144,000.
It comes up. It's definitely come up a lot before in the cultiverse. Like,
yeah. But it's also really interesting that she has the dragon tribe, 12 dragon tribes. I mean, she's tying things all into it's all numerology. She's tying it back into the Bible.
Yeah.
12 tribes of Judah,
I
12
think
disciples of Jesus.
numerology is was kind of her gateway into this stuff. Like, if you watch her old videos, she's way more obsessed with it. Even, I mean, she's still like very into numerology, but it used to be like she'd be like, "Oh, it's 11:11. Can you believe it?" Blah blah, and she'd look at her phone later on and be like, "It's blah blah blah." Like, just like numerology, like any sort of combination. She would talk about like her odometer in her car, and it's like, oh my god, it's a lucky day for whatever reason.
So there's gonna be essentially a new Eden in Texas where 144,000 survivors are gonna be.
Yeah, or Zion, I don't know, like
Zion Eden. I mean, Zion's the end of Revelation's really the marriage of heaven and earth, which becomes a new Eden in some sense. So it's like a return to the Garden City.
You know way more about this than I do. I just I know in the body they were talking about like building Zion, which I guess is like a different sort of paradise or whatever.
I don't think they're speaking on it particularly well, but I know what they're trying to do, if that makes sense. So wow. Okay, so the world ends. Is there any demographic to the 144,000, or is there anything to the number? Like, is it a special group? Like, what's the deal?
I don't. I mean, it's really unclear because of like they're kind of Linda has really disappeared sort of in the last 3 months, where she was in less of the videos. They started doing more like cooking videos. I mean, they make so many videos. But
the entire website is about cooking.
Well, now it is. It's like, yeah, you go to their video page and everything's down for some reason.
Everything's gone.
But it's Linda sort of disappeared. She made an appearance on that same, like the video we saw is she's with this guy Alexander Quinn, who has a massive audience online. And really
is he crazy, or is he like is he a nut job as well, or is he?
He's a nut, but he's like a benign nut. I don't think he understands like what the situation with Linda really is.
Right.
I think if he did, like he probably wouldn't give her such a soapbox. But you would also have to convince him because he believes in like so many other things that she's saying too. It wouldn't just be like, hey, she's a cult, because he'd be like, they all. Those sort of accusations get thrown around in the New Age world, but this is very. I mean, there's a lot of ways that like Linda's just borrowing so heavily from playbook of others and saying so many things straightforward, like clearing, like stop being a person basically, and listen to everything I say. That it's just so clear. It's just a different. It's on a different level, I guess.
Well, it makes me think of like so if you ever get an email from a Nigerian prince or Kenyan prince, whatever, who has $14 million in the bank and needs to send it to you, it's a scam. And we all know it's a scam. We read it, but there are people who don't. And one of the things that they do, which I am now connecting to Linda being Aramaic for serpent, is there are simple typing errors that they put in those emails so that it weeds out the people who aren't going to believe them no matter what. Because they'll go, this is poorly written. This is stupid, the thing that you're doing. And so these little bad things are going to drive out the people who are going to think past it. So I think that plays a part. And I just remembered that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that would definitely be something I think you could observe in some ways through like all the profundity content.
World's going to end. You said that the date may have changed. There's been a new prophecy. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this video came out that You know, they decided they were going to respond, and I knew they were going to respond. Like, as soon as I put out the first video about Profundity, I was like, you know, these people are so heavily online that they're just going to see this right away. And so, yeah, I think I put the first video out on a Monday. I think they released their video last Sunday, which was only up for less than 24 hours, but they had put out a video, and Linda did not address anything about how I was saying it was the end of the world or whatever in my videos, and using like clips of her talking about the equinox. She just said, you know, the equinox is coming. I'm going on silence, and you know that's going to start on the 21st. Which I don't know where she gets that date from, because the lunar equinox or whatever is Monday, the 20th.
Can't wait. I can't wait for those polls to shift into. Are we looking at dying in a flood?
My diet is so bad. I'm just like eating bacon and chocolate cake all the time because it's like, you know, I got 2 days left. Drinking bourbon all day.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go. So one of the newer things that I saw, and if you want to talk about this some before, you know, we're about to hit an hour and we'll shift into the extended episode, but I don't want to miss anything that you want to get out there before we do that. So there is a new connection with like I said, a potential bow to Linda's peep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you don't know about that, Marshall Applewhite, Heaven's Gate. I forget the woman's name, but
Bonnie Nettles.
Yeah, Bonnie. There was another nickname as well that I can't remember, but they both
Doe and T.
Yep, part of the so crazy. But Doe and T, and they also went by Bo and Peep. And so what I'm saying here is there's another party at play potentially, if you'd like to go into that.
Yeah, I only got I'll try to do this quickly, I guess, but there is howdy.
This is Brad.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Brad Binkley.
I'm Brad Binkley. Good to see you.
I would say so we're talking about the sort of Bo and Peep thing. There's a man in the situation behind the scenes, which I mean, there's Linda in a lot of ways is a very sympathetic person, because other than, you know, this all this abuse she's inflicting on people, because it's obvious that like she talks about like abuse that she suffered, and it's obvious she hasn't had any like great relationships with men, and she got mixed up with this guy. I think before all this new age stuff occurred, she got mixed up with this guy who was a genuine psychopath. Like, I talked to his ex-wife. She said, like, he talked about starting a cult all the time. I heard so many stories about this guy that were just well beyond the pale of just this snaky con artist guy. And Linda fell in love with him. He got arrested for having child porn on his computer, and it was really bad because not only did he have this stuff on his computer, but he was having mothers of children make it and send it to him. There are 19 counts, 19 different women. So that's the kind of guy that this dude is, who aspires to a cult. And Linda basically got a lot of her ideas from him. She's still in love with him. He's in prison. She's in Texas for that reason, to be closer to him. And it's a little deranged, but she just doesn't have like a history of grifts that you can see before she met this guy. Like, she doesn't have a criminal record. She, you know, I sort of have an idea of her life is coming into the focus right now of what happened before this, but it just doesn't make any sense that you would, at like, you know, age 48, like start controlling people's lives and everything that she's done to contribute to that. To, you know, it's sort of like organized crime.
When I saw her and I saw some of the videos, I was like, I'm not like discounting her because she's a woman or because of her clear smoker's voice or any of this other stuff. You know, she kind of looks like a haggard trailer park lady. And so I'm like, where's the charisma coming from? Where are the ideas coming from? And I'm not saying she's dumb by any stretch of the imagination. But I was like, these people, especially women, typically come paired with a dude. You see it kind of constantly in kind of cult stories from what I've seen. There's very rarely a woman who does it who doesn't have a dude next to her.
Mm-hmm.
In some
Yeah,
sense.
there are some independent women cult leaders out there.
Mother of God.
But there is definitely like there are situations where like a woman has like there is some like there's an advantage if there's two of you, you know?
Oh, for sure.
And there always has to be like kind of the main leader in a cult. Like there's really always like in Heaven's Gate, they weren't like necessarily equals. Like I feel like Bonnie Nettles kind of came up with a lot of these ideas, but at a, you know, I don't. There's usually not space for like two psychopaths in a room, just based on like the need to like control the situation. But you do have these situations. It's kind of. I mean, in this situation, like this guy is using Linda because she has become successful, I think, and because he's lonely in prison, and it gives him a way to do his like the only thing he cares about, like his little psychopath bit from prison. So you know, maybe he's not so bored, and he's got someone to talk to or whatever. I don't think he actually cares about Linda. I don't think like they may have gotten married. She referred to him as her husband in the latest video. But
you guys probably covered this already, but how did he meet her?
That's sort of a mystery.
Yeah,
like the story that I heard, they were in Great Falls, Montana, and this guy had basically gotten kicked out of his house, or he was going through a divorce that took years, and he was lying about where he was staying, and eventually it came out that like he was staying with Linda, living with Linda, and this happened like on a few occasions over time, where he was just kind of like living with her because like it was a free place to live. They were both living on disability. But that's how they found each other.
What was her profession at the time?
She didn't have a profession. She was just on disability. Like she was a gas station assistant manager before that. Like Linda really is like a rags to riches story, like beating the odds. And it's a very like American story, how Linda has been able to come into all this, profit so much from this, like at, a later stage in life. Like,
and we'll in the extended episode, Brad, we'll show you the video again. We'll just play that again, just to hear it again after we've learned what we have. That way you can kind of hear her talk and see what she's like, because I think that's nice and fun. All right, so
Emerald Sun.
Go ahead.
Emerald Sun City. That's what I'm looking at. That's the ranch
where
you're talking about.
Yeah, the 12. I mean, it's
something like that.
I guess like the other video I sent you, which is too long to play on here, but I could probably like show you where the Galactic Federation stuff is when we get into like aliens.
Oh yeah.
I'm on board.
She's she's one of a kind.
All right. Well, I think since we've hit an hour, we'll continue this on in the extended episode. But I obviously have questions for you before we go, and I'm going to tell everyone where to find you and your TikTok so they can kind of brush up on Linda and follow that and the body if you put some more stuff up about that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do that, have I asked you the hot dog question?
What's the hot dog question?
Okay, I'm going to ask you a dumb question, then I'll ask you the serious ones. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Just think for a second. Just don't answer too quickly, because Cam is judging you.
Hot dog's not a sandwich.
Oh God, Cam.
That's the thing. It's a toss up with people, man. But all I'm saying, my only point.
Oh, I totally get the argument that the hot dog is a sandwich. It's just sort of like maybe it's like a linguistic thing.
It's not a sandwich. It's a sexual
association. An association in my brain. Like I know what a hot dog is, and I know what a sandwich is.
Right.
All right, and then what's your favorite cult now that you're studying them? And I know that's a weird question. Just
it
like,
is
what's
a
your
weird
favorite murder?
question. I mean, like I guess there's nothing more like I'm so personally invested in the body. Like there will never be a cult story if I do this for the rest of my life that I care about as much as this one that, you know, I heard about this in 2017, or I was in communication with the cult in 2017. It's a long time ago. Like I'm still putting out information on them. Like that journey continues. Like these are, I do really, I know the way I present it is different than, you know, publishing an article in the New York Times or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I would say these stories, like the Profundity Yours now, I'm so personally invested in this, and there's a lot of people too who are like working on this with me, like uncovering the story via the internet and Discord, and sort of working with strangers, finding things that worked in previous investigations and applying it to this. Like we're turning over like documents and stuff really quickly, and using AI Whisper or Open AI Whisper to like plow through stuff that would just take forever.
What is that? OpenAI Whisper?
OpenAI Whisper is a transcription software that is like frighteningly accurate. Like it's unlike any transcription software that is like on the market anywhere else. For example, like if we watch this clip of Linda speaking this alien language, in the transcription it will say like speaking alien language, which is something that like a human being like might not like put in that note. But it understands from the conversation, from the context, that gibberish is alien.
Oh wow! Does it do it in real time? Make the transcript?
No, I mean, I don't know how it pumps out the transcripts. Like you've been dumping them into spreadsheets to get the time codes, so that you can sort of isolate. Like, you know, if a video is 2.5 hours long, instead you can just like read it or search for keywords, and have like a specific time code like right there of like this is the second that this like phrase was said.
That's super useful.
Incredible.
Holy smokes.
That's incredible. So, and I'm into it, which let's put it in a more
what's my favorite cult though? I guess if we're talking like outside, and it's come up a couple times, so I just want to like, as far as like cult stories go, there are a few that I like for different reasons, or that are fascinating for different reasons, like stories from the 50s sometimes, like really like old cult stories that existed in a sort of a different America always grab me. But as far as like Heaven's Gate is sort of the ultimate story based on, for so many reasons. These people are so fascinating. There's so much documentation. And for me, when I was growing up, like I didn't know what a cult was. Like I would have been 12 when Heaven's Gate, the suicide, murder, whatever you want to call it, happened. And I remember my dad like picking me up from school, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is how like social studies was." Like I had a good time at recess or whatever. And my dad was just obsessed with true crime. You know, it was always on the TV. And he's like, "You're never going to believe what happened today." And he sort of slow talked, like, here's what happened today. Like, this is what's on the news. This is what they're saying. And I remember like my mind was blown away, like not even understanding what a cult was. And I guess like I've written some on Heaven's Gate, especially just about like their relationship to the internet. And I love like a cult story with a good internet hook to it, like so many of them have now. But Heaven's Gate is kind of the OG. I don't know. It's just a really fascinating.
You know what? One of my favorites that I would love to dig into more is actually Om Shinrikyo out of Japan. Like that's probably the most metal cult that ever existed.
They are metal, yeah. I guess like one thing I'll say that if you look at the stories that I work on most, and especially like the body and Profundity Yours, is I like a cult story that's about a small cult. Like when I'm researching, because I love to get like in depth in this stuff, and I work with other people, like I want to be able to say, Jim went to this high school or whatever, and we all know who Jim is, and we know about his marriage and blah blah blah. Like, if the cult gets too many people, it becomes sort of like about this, that maybe there's one survivor who'll speak out, and like you sort of have their story, and then you have anything that the group made itself. But it's a lot
Scientology, the bigger cult.
I went to Scientology's world headquarters last month.
Clearwater?
In Clearwater, yeah.
You could have told me you were so close to me. We could have actually met in real life.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
They give free tours of their places because they want to recruit people.
Yeah, they showed us around. We went to a whole bunch of the businesses and got souvenirs, but eventually they started following us, and the people like with recorders. Yeah, I couldn't get into the flag building, and I couldn't get what I really wanted to go into was the hotel because they had that gift shop.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, if you ever go to Los Angeles, they have a little Scientology front museum out there called Psychiatry and Industry of Death. Super fascinating to walk through. 100% recommend.
Super neat.
I've been through. Are you talking about? There's one in Clearwater though that I went through.
One there too.
Yeah, it's like all these exhibits about how Elliott Smith was on like Ritalin or something, and that's why he stabbed himself in the heart. And this is like
they blame. My favorite part was
is that listed in the side effects at the end of the commercial. Really quickly, you have heartburn, you might stab yourself in the heart.
Psychiatry isn't real, and these, Scientology is going to fix these problems. Otherwise, you're going to kill yourself like Elliott Smith.
My favorite part of the museum, though, was when you walked through the 9/11 section.
Like, there's some grim stuff. There's like, here's the Holocaust, like,
right, and how this was psychiatry's fault. It's incredible. Highly recommend walking through that. 100%. So beyond that, before we go into the extended episode, I do want to ask you my big question and then let everyone know where to find you. You answered it last time. Let's see if you remember it this time. What's something right now in your life, global, local, in a single cult that you're looking into that gives you hope for the future and gives you a little motivation to carry on?
I would say right now there's been a lot of collaboration, like this project that I'm working on. Like, you see my face in the videos, like I'm talking about it. Like I feel like it will become like it'll get some press and other people will be talking about it. But it's the big thing that gives me hope is that people are collaborating, people are interested, more people are finding out what cults are. And there's this other story right now about this cult leader, Leanna Shanty, who, like, with another investigator, I helped look up files from her bankruptcy. Like, I was like, I look up court records all the time, and we were pulling information about her. And then all of a sudden, like, that story exploded, and there were all these people that knew details of it, and there was no place for this woman to run. And it's going to be harder for her to abuse people. And I think it's using the internet, crowdsourcing, victims using the internet and connecting to each other so that they can tell a story together. I think what gives me hope is that in the information age, when we all kind of will wisen up to like what a cult actually is, so people are less like surprised by them and know how frequently they occur. There's thousands of them in the United States. When
Democrats and Republicans are two famous cults. Like what you're talking about, the techniques they use to bring in people to organize cults are the same techniques used to divide and conquer and create Democrat Republicans in the most extreme.
Yeah, I mean, these are ideological, concepts. Yeah, I mean, the indoctrination, you could say. I definitely think that's true. But yeah, I do have hope that, like, sort of like what I'm doing with Profundity Yours, like, isn't that much different than, like, Anonymous. Like, there's less of me. Yeah. I'm not going to do anything fucked up, like break laws this time around. I'm not going to tell. I might tell the FBI I'm going to murder Mitch McConnell, but we'll see what happens with that. But it's really like you get people united under like, here's what's going on. Here's how these people are being abused. They're not breaking any laws. Like, that's the thing with cults, is they're so good at forcing people. Like, Linda's committing extortion, but she'd never go down for it, because if you ask the person who's given up all their money, did you give this money? Did you say no? Did you agree to this? They're going to say, yeah, I totally agreed.
Like Mel Parker, right? Or no, it wasn't Mel Parker. It was the woman who gave away her children. And on video, we're like, yes, I agree to give my children to these people. Or to my husband, and I have no rights anymore, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And in a bad way. When I say incredible, I don't mean it like
no. So and when I say my favorite cult, or like this cult is really interesting or whatever, it's because it's really interesting. I feel like generally the sort of cult stopping industry is humorless and would get more traction if people recognized how ridiculous some of this shit is.
No joke. But it's kind of like the like if I ask you who your favorite murderer is, I don't assume if you answer that you actually love murder, but I'm going to tell you Pee Wee Gaskins is the most hilarious murderer.
What murderer do you model yourself after?
Gacy. I mean,
Gacy, yeah.
That guy dressed up as a fucking clown for kids.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Kids in his basement. Like, what the, like, you can't tell me that that's not like interesting.
Oh, yeah, it's totally interesting.
And his art.
Yeah. It takes advantage of, it's similar to what we were talking about the other night, Cam, with cults too. Of most people are good people, and the small percentage of psychopaths know that people don't think like them. So like, we don't think somebody would be a certain way or do like a certain thing because we would never do it. And so we could never think in that way, which enables them to kind of get away with it, because most people, it's good to be good, but I think it's good to also be skeptical and cynical.
Yeah, and you have to be like skeptical and cynical. And I don't think you could show somebody something like Profundity Yours if you don't have a background in like the new age stuff she's talking about. Like there's no way you would be introduced to it and like fall for this shit. It would just like you got to have a background from like other gurus. Like it appeals to like a certain person that already has like a certain set of beliefs. And this is like there's something new here. There's more here. Like it's profound if you aren't thinking about it, I guess. But
yeah, I'm not a thinker, so this makes perfect sense. So with that, let's wrap it up and go to the extended episode. If people want to find you, you are on Twitter at FreeMelParker. You are on TikTok at Syran Warner. And you have your website for the body, which is thebodyinternational.com, thebodyintl.com. Anything else you want to throw in there?
I would just say, like, definitely TikTok is the biggest conduit to like getting this story in the world right now. I think there's definitely over like 1.5 million views on these Linda videos at this point.
Wow.
And that's kind of where like stories are going to be breaking before like I put out an article and other things that I'll do or share on Twitter. It's just, this is where the audience is in 2023. So that's where you'll find me most.
Till Biden bans it.
1.5
million views, so nice.
That's good. Yeah. The biggest tweet I've ever, or not tweet, I've had a bigger tweet than I have a TikTok now. I think the biggest TikTok I ever had was like 6 or 7 million, and it was literally just me taking a crap on the comic book The Boys by Garth Ennis. I like the show, I do not like the book, and I got more views on that than I ever had.
Ass backwards on that.
No. There's not a redeeming character to want to read to the end in those books whatsoever. All I'm saying.
I just have to say, with like things skipping out sometimes on the internet, that would have been like an unfortunate time for someone to tune in with you saying the biggest TikTok I ever had. Then a few seconds later, Whipspoon saying that was ass backwards right there. If a few words cut out, that'd be unfortunate.
I mean, the biggest tweet I've ever had was mulleted presidents. I mean, that took it very easily. But
did you know? I guess did you know before you posted that it was going to go viral?
No. Oh, I mean, I had some idea that it might get probably like a couple thousand.
Had you DM'd with Elon?
I guess
No.
last year when I got that footage, I've been working so hard on the body, the story that nobody was paying attention to. But when I got the police footage of this guy calling his property over and over, while I was watching it, I was like, Jesus Christ, a ton of people are going to see this.
What's funny is last time, so I guess you probably came on in June of last year, because right before you came on last year, I had gone viral and was on Tucker Carlson.
Oh yeah, that amazing, yeah.
Yeah, and then this time I went viral and I was on CNN. So
nice.
Maybe next time I go viral, you'll come back.
That's what. Yeah, I'll keep track on TikTok and Twitter. I'll know it's time.
But beyond that, we'll move into the extended episode. If you want to find Brad on Twitter, he is at Freedom Act Radio. You can go to propagandafight.com to check out the propaganda report. It's also on Rockfin, Patreon, and every podcast platform. Whip, what is your handle now, buddy? Is it just at Whip Spoon? You're muted.
Yeah, let me hit the button.
There
Make
you go.
sounds, make the working soundy thingies. I'm at Real Whip Spoon.
Real Whip Spoon. Awesome. So beyond that, we're going to move into extended conversation, probably talk about murder and argue about the boys for a little bit.
Yeah, and subscribe if you want to see something weird, because there's going to be, I guarantee if I talk about profundity anymore, it's just a wellspring of
I want to hear more weirdness, man.
Yeah.
But if you want to find me, well, first off, next week, Thursday, regular time, Warren McGrew is going to be on the show. He goes by @IdolKiller on Twitter. He used to be into the Calvinism portion of Christianity and got away from that. And that's like the biggest part of internet Christianity. We're going to talk about why he went away, what he thinks about it, etc. A lot of people are really interested in that one, and I've had to put it off twice now. It's going to happen this time, Warren. I promise. But other than that, I'm on Twitter at HamCarlos. If you'd like to join the extended episodes, if you would like to get early episodes, etc., patreon.com/themadOnes. If you want a t-shirt or a president's poster or a mug, wearethemadOnes.com/store. If you're listening right now and would rather watch, you can do it. You can do that live every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/themadOnes. The extended version is on Rockfin. So if you hang out on Rockfin or get the special link from Patreon, you can also watch the entire extended version at that moment and not have to do this whole sign up thing or not sign up and miss it, etc. If you would rather listen instead of look at my dumb face, you can go to wearethemadOnes.com or any podcatcher. That's all I've got. We're going to move into last call now. Thank you for coming on, Syran. I appreciate the heck out of you. Same to you and Brad and Whip. And let's hit the button. As always, you have a chance to be a light in the world, so go light it up.